Good morning, everyone. We're here for our last week's baking demos, and we're doing lemon buttermilk pound cake and vanilla butter pound cake. I know I always say it, but I love whatever we're baking. I usually have you guys bake whatever I love to eat, so we're making pound cakes. I love pound cakes. I sent you a bunch of videos on the history of pound cakes. One of the guys talks about what pound cake really is, and it's basically 1 pound flour, 1 pound sugar, 1 pound egg, 1 pound butter, and usually some kind of flavoring. There's no chemical leaveners in the original, and I sent you a video on a lady from like the 1700s, 1780s, right around there. She was the original pound cake in the United States. It's like an hour and a half video. They read through her whole book. Maybe you just want to listen to it a little bit. But I sent you a bunch of videos about lemon farming and all kinds of different things. So hopefully you're watching the videos and they're a good educational tool for you. But so we're going to start with our lemon buttermilk pound cake today. We've got my pans all prepped up. So come on over here and take a look at the recipe real quick. So we've got lemon buttermilk pound cake on page 408 in your book. We've got unsalted butter at room temperature, granulated sugar. I sent you some videos on emulsifications as well and the importance of temperatures when we're making some of these recipes. So when it calls for butter at room temperature, eggs at room temperature, it has to be like that. If it's not, it's going to probably cause your recipe to curdle on you and it won't come out nearly as nicely. So have your ingredients sit out. Your butter can sit out overnight. Have your buttermilk and your eggs sitting out for 3 or 4 hours. There'll be no problem. If my eggs are a little bit cool, we can always put the eggs that are still in the shell, float them in a bowl of warm water to warm them up a little bit. Okay, but you definitely want to make sure everything is room temperature. Okay, so I've got my pans prepped up already. We're going to start up by creaming our butter and sugar mixture until it's light and fluffy. Then I'm going to add in my eggs one at a time. Continue beating for 1 minute, making sure I'm scraping the bowl really well. Then I've got my dry ingredients over here. So I've got my flours over here, my chemical leaveners. Come over here, Gracie. My flours in here, my chemical leaveners, and my salts. I got my buttermilk here, and then I still got to juice my lemon yet, but I got a nice big lemon. Here's my lemon zest. So I don't know if you've ever done it before or not, but if you bought your tool kit, you should have a microplane in there, okay? You see the lemon zest still in here. So when I'm zesting a lemon or an orange or grapefruit, I'm gonna take it like this. I usually have it right over some kind of flat surface, and I go like this. So I'm turning my lemon like this as I'm going along, because I don't want to take off a lot of the yellow, get down to the pit, the white. I want to leave a little bit of yellow on there, and then I can knock out my extra zest here. I'll worry about that later. In the meantime, I've also softened up my lemon. So by doing this, I put my lemon on the bench or whatever, and I roll it and I'm pressing it. That way I can soften up the juice a little bit. So let's see how squeezable it is now. It's like a balloon filled with water. I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm gonna juice it out. Put it on my little juicer. I sent you a video on a guy who grows oranges on the Amalfi Coast or in Valencia. I was actually on the Amalfi Coast a couple years ago. Awesome place. If you ever get a chance to go, it's beautiful. But they were showing how they grow lemons there. So I'm going to make sure we're getting all the juice out. And so this is going to be our lemon buttermilk pound cake. I didn't have buttermilk either, so I made my own buttermilk. And you can Google a lot of things and find out how to make ingredients if you don't have them. So lemon, if I need to make buttermilk, it's not the same thing as real buttermilk. I actually sent you some videos on making buttermilk as well, but this is what I had to do. If I have to make buttermilk, I usually take, I think it's 1 cup of milk and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice or vinegar or something like that. Mix it together, let it stand. You can see how it looks now. It's all kind of separated. Looks like buttermilk. It's kind of gross a little bit, but it's what we want. So now I've got my lemon juice here and I'm ready to move on. So I've got here's my lemon zest as well. I like to put it right in with my sugar and I blend it together like this. And it helps to extract the flavors of the lemon from the zest. It smells awesome. You know, if you can smell it right now, it smells amazing. So I always blend my zest with my sugars, even though the book says not to do that. The book says do it a different way. I always do it like this. I believe it helps extract some more flavor from the lemon zest or the grapefruit or orange or whatever it is I'm working with. Helps extract some flavor out of it, so it's really beautiful. Okay, so I've got my butter, hopefully room temperature. See, it's nice and pliable. I'm gonna put that into my mixer. So I've got my lemon sugar going into my mixing bowl. I'm gonna put my paddle on. Start mixing that together nicely. We're gonna let this go for about 1 minute, because we want to incorporate some air, some cell structure into our pound cake. If you watch one video where they don't use any type of chemical leaveners, the guy was just beating the sugar and the butter for quite a long time till it was white looking. And we're incorporating air into it. That's the only way that you can get any type of leavening from the pound cake. Our pound cake that we're going to be using has some chemical leaveners in there, so it's going to cause it to rise. It's not going to be as dense a pound cake. It'll be a little fluffier. I'm going to get my bowl scraper out. Yeah, there's not so much butter and sugar in here that we can just afford to just let it turn without scraping. We want to make sure that we get the sugar and the butter off the bottom of the bowl, off the paddle. Make sure it's into the recipe, into the ingredients. Get it on about medium speed. I'm just gonna let it go for a little bit. So you're gonna watch this for a second here. Make sure I get the nice cell structure developed. Then we'll start adding our eggs to it. Our eggs have been sitting out for room temperature because, again, we want to make sure for the emulsification process, everything needs to be at a nice temperature so everything goes together. I'm going to use this kind of pan this week for my lemon buttermilk pound cake, and then I've got a pan like this for my vanilla butter pound cake. You can use whatever you want. You know, whatever you got at home is great. I went to, you know, the what is it called, the hospice? I went to a what is that store called? A thrift store yesterday and just bought a pan like this. Cost me $2.99. So I'm gonna bake my pound cakes in this. I like to use something like this. Kind of looks kind of cool, kind of rustic. I like it. Okay. So our butter and sugar has been mixing here for a little bit. I'm gonna give it another scrape. Making sure we're getting this all beautifully incorporated. So this is our last week of school. The European pastry class, I've sent you guys some messages on that, is coming out. I think it's going to start on March 21st. Within a day or two of that, we're going to be in classroom for that one. So that's going to be like 3 days a week. I think it's from 3 to 8 p.m. But it's going to be a lot more involved than what we've been doing. You'll be making a lot more recipes. Hopefully you guys will get signed up for that. Okay, so my butter's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to put in just 1 egg at a time. The recipe calls for 3 eggs. I'm going to put 1 in at a time. Make sure it gets nicely incorporated. Go back and look at my recipe for a minute. So I want to get all my eggs in first. Is there a shell in there or something? What's that?
Here.
I can't see it there. Oh, yes. Okay. I'm going to scrape it. You can see that there's going to be a lot of water added to the butter and sugar mixture when we put the eggs in, because eggs are mainly water. Make sure it's nicely incorporated. I'll put one more egg in. So we don't want to add too much of this at a time, because a lot of times this is how we get a nice emulsification, where we get everything to hold together, blended together beautifully. If we dump too much liquid in at one time, then it'll never get together properly. Again, I'm going to give it another scrape. You can see, take a good look in there. See how it's starting to look kind of like broken, really, because there's so much water in the recipe that the fat can't really hold all the water in suspension. So don't be surprised if it looks a little bit ugly. Turn the speed up a little bit. See if I can get a little nicer incorporation. I'll put my last egg in. Let that mix for a minute. Okay, let me turn my speed up a little bit. Give it another scrape. Then we're going to start adding our dry ingredients here in a minute. So we've got our flours, our baking soda, our baking powder, our salt. We're going to combine our buttermilk and our lemon juice. See how it looks? Take a good look. See, that's kind of like it's broken really, because there's too much liquid in there. Too much. If I put maybe a little more heat on it, I might be able to get it to come together. Matter of fact, I'm going to grab a blowtorch. Okay, so I got my blowtorch out. I'm just going to kind of warm up my bowl a little bit. See, I'm not going crazy. I want to make sure everything is a nice temperature. Warming it up a little bit. I'm moving my blowtorch around. It's just something I get at Home Depot, you know. Doesn't have to be any, you know. I think someone bought me a fancy blowtorch, you know, that you'll see people using online sometimes. But it's kind of, this I bought it for like 28 bucks and it lasts forever. Okay. Still looks a little bit broken. So now I got my dry ingredients here. I'm just going to mix it all together. Get a little spoon out. Okay. And again, I'm just going to put in half my, I'm going to be doing some alternating. So I've got my lemon juice and my buttermilk here. It's going to look kind of nasty. That's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so I'm going to go with half my dry ingredients in. Okay. I'm going to turn on kind of a slow speed because I don't want to just have all the flour flying out in my face. Okay, you can see that when I added the flour to it, it really tightens up the recipe quite a bit. See, it looks a lot less broken. I'm still going to give it a good scrape here. Make sure I'm getting everything mixed in before I add in anything else. Mix it up again for a second. Then I'm going to start adding my liquids in. I'm going to give this a good stir because it looks pretty nasty. Get that incorporated. It would have been better. You guys should have gotten actual buttermilk, which is better than what I got. So So I'm just making, like I said, I just made my own buttermilk. Now I'm going to add some more flour in. Okay. You need to tell me something if you see something. I don't see anything. Okay, we're back to it now. So I just added some more of my flour mixture to it. See, it's looking better. It's going to look ugly again when I add the rest of my liquid. I've got a little bit more flour to go into it yet. You see, it's kind of just on the borderline. You know, this recipe is pretty tricky. Hopefully it'll come out okay for me. Hopefully it'll come out all right for you guys. You see right now, it's kind of borderline broken. It's got a little bit more flour to add into it, and hopefully it'll tighten it up. Okay. I'm going to give it another scrape. Still looks a little bit on the separated side to me. I'm hoping it's going to come together. If not, I might add just a little bit more flour to it. Not like you should be doing that, that's for sure. Fill my bowl. Warming up my mix again, because maybe my buttermilk and my eggs might have been a little bit too cool. I hope I'm not making a complete disaster out of this, but we'll see, I guess. Okay. Does look still a little bit on the broken side. Okay. You can look in here and see, still looks a little bit broken to me, man. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour to it. It's not something I like to do, but I feel like it's going to give me a little better product. So I'm putting in like 2 big heaping tablespoons of flour. So if it looks like, you see right here, it looks like it's kind of broken. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. It doesn't look like a nice creamy mixture. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour to it, and hopefully that'll take care of that and tighten it up a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to give it another scrape here. Hey. My dogs are howling out the front door right now. It's looking better. Still not fantastic though. I'm going to add a little bit more flour in there. Hang on a second, I got to take care of my dogs. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more flour to it still. So I'm not looking how it's looking that much really. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good now. See how it looks more cake-like, the batter? Doesn't look really broken at all. I want to make sure it's not broken. Again, we're doing our emulsification. And again, this recipe is a little bit on the trickier side. So, if your recipe looks a little separated like mine did at first, don't hesitate to put a little bit more flour into it. Okay, don't get all crazy and throw in, another pound of flour or anything like that. But I'm gonna come over here now. Got my pan ready to go. And I'm gonna give this a good scrape. Make sure everything's incorporated beautifully. And put this in the pan. We're gonna see how this bad boy comes out. Hopefully it's good, but you never can tell. Some things are, you know, pretty foolproof. You know, chocolate chip cookies, pâte de crèmes, creme brulees. Sometimes some of these little baked items are a little bit trickier. So like I said, I sprayed my pan really nicely. Now I'm going to pop this in the oven and probably go for about 35 to 40 minutes with this. And we'll take a little break and get cleaned up, and we'll move on to the next recipe. Be right back. Okay, so the lemon buttermilk pound cake's in the oven, and now we're going to start working on the vanilla butter pound cake. So this one's got whole eggs, egg yolks, vanilla extract and water, butter, vanilla sugar, salt, and cake flour. So this one doesn't have as much or any chemical leaveners. So this one we're going to be mixing it longer. So we're going to start by taking our soft butter and mixing bowl. You can pad attachment for about 2 minutes. Then add the sugar gradually and continue beating for 4 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to put my butter in first and start creaming that up. Make sure all my butter goes in there. My nice sauce. See how the butter's nice and pliable, soft, room temperature again. Okay, we're going to turn this on for about 2 minutes. So we just want to mix this. I'm going to set my timer for about 2 minutes. We're going to come back in 2 minutes. I don't want to sit there and say you're watching this for 2 minutes, but we're back in 2 minutes. Okay, so it's been mixing for about 2 minutes. Come on and take a look at the butter. See, it's nice and soft. I'm going to scrape it down beautifully. See how nice and creamy it looks. Taking on some white texture to it. So the whiter it gets is just an indication that there's air cell formulation going on there. You're getting air incorporated. It makes it whiter, but it also means that we're going to be getting some leavening from this. So when we incorporate air into our butter, our fat, that air will get into the final product. And when we bake, the air bubbles, the air cells that are actually in the baked goods start to expand, and that's how you get leavening. Okay, so now we're going to mix. I'm going to add my sugar slowly. Let's see here. So I put in a little bit of time, and I'm going to take probably another 4 to 5 minutes to get my sugar incorporated and make sure I'm really getting some creaming going. So I'm going to turn my speed up. And we're going to come back in 4 or 5 minutes when all the sugar has been added. But like I said, I'm just adding the sugar a little bit like this at a time. That's it. I'm going to make sure I scrape it pretty consistently. We'll be back in 5 minutes. So come on back in. So we've been definitely mixing for 5 to 6 minutes at least. Because I want to make sure I get a nice, see how white it is compared to what it used to look like. So we've got plenty of air incorporated. And now we're going to start adding our eggs. And we're going to add our eggs over the course of about 5 minutes. So I just want to make sure I'm getting a good scrape here. I'm going to get this going again. And now I'm going to start adding a little bit of eggs at a time. Again, like we want to go about 5 minutes to add this eggs in. So I'm going to slowly add my eggs in, scraping it every once in a while after I add some eggs incorporated into it. And then we're going to go for about 5 minutes, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes too. Be right back. Okay, so now we've been incorporating the eggs and the egg yolks for about 5 minutes. Come up and take a close-up shot. You can see this is a little bit of the butter that was just the sugar and the butter. Now I've got the egg yolks in there and the eggs, so it's a lot more yellow. I'm just going to give one final scrape here and make sure that we've got everything nice and incorporated. Then the rest we're going to be doing by hand. We're going to fold in the dry ingredients, so our flours and our salt and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to take this off now. Clean off my paddle beautifully again. As always, we don't want to be wasting ingredients. Okay, I'm going to throw it in the sink, give myself a quick rinse. Now I've got my salt here. Let's see, come on over here. So I've got our salt right here. I'm gonna get that incorporated. And then I've got my dry ingredients. And these are gonna, let me just double check. Let's see here. Okay, 1/4 at a time. We're gonna put our sifted flours in. Okay, so whenever we're folding, we're gonna do it by hand like this. Usually I like to use a bowl that's not quite as deep as this. I like to use a wider, shallower bowl for when I'm folding. But since I'm already in here like this, I'm gonna just keep it going. Like I said, I want to add in about 1/4 of my flour in at a time. Making sure I get that incorporated nicely. And then we'll put it in our pan. And again, we'll be baking this at about 350 degrees as well. Most of the time I'm baking it around 350 degrees, seems like. Unless I'm doing a cheesecake or breads or croissants or things like that. Okay. That's my 3rd addition of my flour. See my batter's getting thicker now. This batter's a lot creamier, more cake-like than the last recipe we did. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to get another pan, but for right now I just got one pan prepped up for this one to bake in. So the reason that we're folding the flour in is because we don't want to, when you're making pound cakes, you want it to be nice and tender, right? You don't want to have a pound cake that's like a bread, like a heavy bread dough. So you want it to be nice and tender. So if we're mixing by hand like this, the odds are we're going to not be able to develop a whole lot of gluten. Okay, so it'll be nice and tender. Make sure everything gets incorporated. So you can see the batter now. It's nice and thick, cake-like. And I'm going to get my pan over here. Like I said, I'm probably going to have to get another pan up, but for right now I just have this one pan. And I think I will put it on my scale. That way I know exactly how much is in each one. Okay, so I'm going to try not to make too big of a mess. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like a lot to go in there. So that one's about 350 grams. I dropped a big glob right here. I'm not going to overfill my pan, so I'll probably get a smaller pan from this one yet. Then I'm going to put these in the oven. So that's about 550 grams of cake batter. You see how much I fill my pan. I don't like to overfill it because it overflows. Then we got a real problem. So we're going to put this in the oven for probably 30-40 minutes. And then we'll come back and show you the final product. Okay, see you in a little bit.
One.
Okay, so here's our pound cake. So this is our lemon pound cake that came out first out of my oven. I put like a little lemon glaze on top, so it's like powdered sugar and lemon juice, and just blend it together and drizzle it all over the cake. Gives it a little more lemon flavor. It's got really good flavor. You can see the texture came out really nice. Coming up real close there. The texture came out really nice. Remember, we had to add a little bit more flour to this recipe because it looked like it was kind of broken. So don't hesitate to add a little more flour to your recipe. Again, this is just like this is a flat icing, so it's got powdered sugar and lemon juice, and you can kind of make that to however your taste buds. Put as much on as you want, or not at all. Okay. And then this last one here is the vanilla butter pound cake. This one just kind of came out of the oven a minute or so ago. But it looks like it's got nice cell structure. It's nice and fluffy and light. Smells nice, like a nice little pound cake. I've got another one that's still in the oven. But that's it for our pound cakes, okay? And then this is our last week in class. Hope you guys enjoyed everything, all the baking at home, that your family enjoyed the baked goods. I will have your grades. I'm pretty sure your assignment is due earlier, so I've already sent an email out to you guys. So the homework assignment, instead of doing Saturday night, is due Thursday night. But like I said, I've already posted a notice to you guys about that. So keep an eye on that. And then hopefully I'll see you in the 8 class So your assignments due Thursday. I'll probably have everything graded by Saturday. I'll probably have your grades in by Sunday. And you guys can sign up for the 8 class as soon as you pass this class. Okay? Hope you enjoyed the class. Well, hopefully we'll see you in person for the 8 class. Again, that class is going to start on like March 21st. It's 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights from about 3 to 8, I believe. But we'll be in person. So looking forward to seeing you guys in class. Have a nice couple weeks off. See you soon.